Why, hello, everybody. Welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Kelsey. I am an actor and voice actor living in Chicago. And today, I will be reacting to Cicada 3301, An Internet Mystery by LEMMiNO. I've watched a few of LEMMiNO's videos before. They're super informational. Is that a word? My brain is broken. But informative. That's a better one. But I have not watched this one. And I've always seen this thumbnail floating around, but I've never actually watched it. So I'm really excited to learn about Cicada 3301. All I know is it's like an internet legend, an internet riddle contest sort of thing. I don't know. But you know what? I'm going to find out.
Just let me know.
On the 4th of January 2012, a user on 4chan posted this image to the site's infamous B or
creepy.
random board. The anonymous author, who went by the 4-digit pseudonym 3301, challenged users to uncover a message hidden within the image. Unbeknownst to those who stumbled across it, someone had just set in motion one of the most elaborate scavenger hunts the internet has ever seen.
Cool graphic.
Within minutes of the image being posted, someone discovered that by opening the file using a text editor, an appended string of readable text could be found. The string contained a cipher that, once deciphered, formed a link to yet another image. At first, this appeared to be a dead end, but using an application known as OutGuess, users were able to extract hidden information embedded within the first image.
What? Okay, I probably would have gotten to the dead end thing and would have been like I'm a smart person, I like to think, but I'm not internet smart at all, really, or technology smart, except where it applies with my career and, you know, doing this. But I would have gotten to the dead end and would have been like, there's got to be something more here, but honestly, I don't care anymore. So if that tells you anything about where I would have ended my search, it's early. I don't think I would have been the winner. So, wow, this is
extracted information led to a subreddit, which in turn contained information about the book. The book, along with a code, could then be used to uncover a phone number that, when called, played this pre-recorded message.
Very good. You have done well. There are 3 prime numbers associated with the original final.jpg image. 3301 is one of them. You will have to find the other 2. Multiply all 3 of these numbers together and add a .com on the end to find the next step. Good luck.
This is like National Treasure, but in real life.
By the following day, the initial image had been reposted all over the internet.
Oh, I'm sure. I've seen it around. And I don't even go in these
A growing community of armchair detectives sought to unravel this elaborate puzzle, but no one was quite sure what to make of it. What was the puzzle for? Who was behind it? What happens when you reach the end? Some naturally dismissed it as an elaborate joke, while others perceived its complexity as evidence against it being the work of a mere troll. Before long, rumors began to circulate that this could be the work of some secret society or intelligence agency, with the intent of recruiting individuals proficient in cryptography, steganography, and other related fields.
You know?
Of course, it was nothing but a rumor. The 2 missing numbers mentioned in the recording proved to be the dimensions of the original image. After multiplying the width and height with 3301 and using the product as a web address, users were taken to a website. The website consisted of a countdown as well as an image of a cicada. When the countdown reached 0, the page was updated with a list of coordinates. The coordinates pointed to locations around the globe, 14 locations in 5 different countries. It was now up to participants living near the specified coordinates to rise from their comfortable armchairs and venture outside.
Know where that is. Like
Those who
Texas,
believed Cicada to be the work of an organization now felt their beliefs had been justified. In their opinion, only some international collective possessed the means and resources to create a scavenger hunt of this magnitude.
That's weird.
This was not the work of your average troll. No, this had to be something else. At each location was a poster with a cicada symbol and a QR code.
Man, poor people who did this and live in like South America or Africa or Russia, they have nowhere to go near them. They had to really commit. Whoa!
Bike shelter over here. See, I got it right there. Oh, you can see the corners. I was excited. I just kind of ripped it off.
The codes linked to an image, the image contained a riddle, the riddle led to a book, and the book led to a website.
Whoa.
But here, the puzzle took an unexpected turn.
You have to go into
Only
the dark
a select
web.
group of first arrivals to this website were accepted into the final stage of the puzzle. The site eventually closed down with the message, "We want the best, not the followers."
That's brutal.
The finalists were also warned not to collaborate with others nor to share the details of this private stage of the puzzle. Well, given that we know this, it's safe to say that not everyone heeded that warning. But those who did...
Right, what are the consequences? We don't know them, and there seem to be none.
Presumably...
They had to know if they were this intelligent, or they like to seem very intelligent, which they clearly do. You would think they would have accounted for word spreading about this no matter what. I mean, they posted it on a public forum anyway.
Advanced through the final stages before reaching the very end of the puzzle.
Okay.
After nearly a month of silence, an image appeared on the subreddit announcing the conclusion of the puzzle, and just like that, the hunt was over.
Yes, though.
Cicada had supposedly found the highly intelligent individuals they were looking for, and whatever happened to them is a bit of a mystery, but more on that in a moment. The complete lack of an explanation was perceived by many as confirmation that the puzzle had been nothing but a wild goose chase intent on wasting everyone's time. After all, questions raised by the original image remained unanswered. What was the puzzle for? Who was behind it? What happens when you reach the end? However, as it later turned out, this was only the beginning.
Of course it was only the beginning. Alright, second puzzle, what is it?
Whomever was behind this intricate game had the foresight to include an authentication code known as a PGP signature along with every clue. This allowed users to verify that an image or message was actually from Cicada, as opposed to some imposter seeking to derail or hijack the puzzle. Cicada had repeatedly warned of such false paths and insisted that any message lacking a valid PGP signature should promptly be disregarded. That's why this image, posted exactly a year and a day after the first, provoked such a frenzy. After a year of lackluster imitations, this image finally matched the official PGP signature. Cicada was back, and it was time for round 2. The second puzzle was not too dissimilar from the first. The image enclosed a message, the message led to a book, the book produced a link, and gradually the puzzle unfolded. At one point, a recording titled "The Instar Emergence" was...
What? That sounds like something from science fiction. But wouldn't you think, I wonder if that was just a filler link that LEMMiNO put on there, or if it was really a Dropbox link. Because that's a very public service, and I feel like Dropbox, like a Dropbox address can easily, if people knew enough or pieced enough together on their own, that could be corrupted or hacked or broken into super easily, as opposed to some, encrypted thing that you have to find on a Tor browser. Dropbox just seems weird for that.
Was a cryptic Twitter account, which then led to an image. The image proved vital to the progression of the puzzle, but the inclusion of this runic alphabet would remain a mystery for quite some time. Much like the first puzzle, the second swelled into the physical world when a list of coordinates compelled participants to once again take to the streets in search of enigmatic
Very heavily
posters.
based in the USA.
This time it was...
Which seems... Oh, now people in Moscow, now people in Russia have a better chance, I guess. It seems very concentrated in the US. You would think if it was really a super powerful organization and not just a group of people spread out over a couple countries who knew each other and were working together, they would be able to make it less based just in the US, you know? Like, it's very clear that whoever's doing this is heavily based in the US. Like, they had ties to MIT. Most of the markers are in the US every time. And they have United States numbers, phone numbers, no matter where they are in the world. It's just interesting why they hadn't thought of dispersing more if they were truly going to hide their identity. Yeah.
8 locations
Not
in
saying they're
4
not smart or doing a good
countries.
job,
But eventually the trail went cold once
you know
again.
I mean?
Another select group of first arrivals have been accepted into a final private stage of the puzzle. Unlike the first puzzle, the second did not conclude with an official message from Cicada. The trail merely went cold and Cicada vanished once more, leaving us no closer to an explanation. However, this was still not the end.
Third puzzle. Alright, let's go. What's this one?
At the beginning of 2014, it was time for round 3. Once again, the image enclosed a message, the message led to a book, the book produced a link, and suffice it to say, it was more of the same. Except this time, the puzzle seemed to revolve around a strange book. The book was titled Liber Primus, meaning first book in Latin, and was evidently written by Cicada. The runic alphabet uncovered in 2013 finally made sense, as the book was primarily written in runes. Even so, the meaning of the translated pages were cryptic at best. The book consisted of various philosophical and ideological ideas and appeared to be their manifesto. Many have since compared the strange writings to that of a cult. Nevertheless, the book also comprised a myriad of clues and codes. For example, this page advised participants to seek out a website on the deep web, but the site remains undiscovered. Another page led to a website containing yet another recording titled Interconnectedness.
You know what I mean?
However, a significant
sounds.
portion of the book has yet to be translated. The runic text on some of the pages appear to be obfuscated by layers of encryption that has yet to be decrypted. Of the 74 pages featuring runes, only 19 have been successfully translated. As 2015 came and went without the launch of a new puzzle, many came to suspect the Liber Primus had to be completed if Cicada was to return. This was more or less confirmed at the beginning of 2016 when Cicada encouraged a re-examination of the book. More than 4 years have now gone by with minimal progress and near complete silence from Cicada. Questions raised by the original image have gone ignored. What is the purpose of these puzzles? Who's behind them? What happens when you reach the end?
You play Animal Crossing. Interesting.
When the initial image appeared on 4chan back in 2012, many assumed Cicada 3301 to be an alternate reality game designed by a corporation to promote a new service or product. For example, Microsoft developed an elaborate ARG back in 2001 to promote.
But if you want to promote a product, then why have so few people get to the end and actually understand? Did they just think, oh, these people, because they didn't propose consequences, oh, if there are no consequences, then the people who get to the end are just going to tell everybody. I don't know why it would be to promote a product, truly. I don't know what the point of that would be.
promote the film Artificial Intelligence, and a similar viral marketing campaign was used to promote the release of Halo 2.
Oh, I didn't know
But
that.
the release of subsequent puzzles and the complete lack of commercialization has more or less eliminated that possibility. If we choose to believe some of the leaked information from the private end stage of each puzzle, then we do gain some insight into who this group might be. For example, at the end of the first puzzle, finalists supposedly received this email. In it, Cicada described themselves as an international group who believe that privacy is an inalienable right. The aim of each puzzle is to recruit like-minded individuals in an effort to develop privacy-conscious solutions. The email then concludes with 3 questions. The PGP signature, which would have confirmed the authenticity of the email, was conveniently removed by the leaker. If a version with a valid signature does exist online, I was unable to find it. But regardless of its legitimacy, I find
that first one is just, you think people should be able to have VPNs? It's not, but I wanted to make a funny.
This question a bit odd. It reads, do you believe that information should be free? Assuming the expected answer is yes, then the very first sentence.
Right, and throughout this whole process, they've made sure that their information is very much not free. So what's the point of that? What's
do
that
not
about?
Share this information seems a bit hypocritical. While the idea of a secret society recruiting individuals by means of elaborate cryptographic puzzles may seem a bit absurd or even conspiratorial, it's not entirely unfounded. Corporations and governments alike have employed similar recruitment techniques since at least the Second World War. In 2013, the British intelligence agency GCHQ launched a recruitment program known as Can You Find It? Participants had to decrypt a number of cryptograms hidden across the internet, and those who managed to solve the entire puzzle were offered a prize or a position at the agency. Google did something similar with enigmatic billboards back in 2004, and the US Navy launched a near-identical project in 2014. Okay, but then what about the recruits? Why have we not heard from these chosen few? Well, we have. It's just that separating a legitimate finalist from an imposter is virtually impossible.
Sure, you'd have to do your own process of Cicada verification in order to do that, and you don't have the information necessary to figure out what is real and what's not, whereas with Cicada you do.
A 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, 2 alleged winners of the first puzzle chronicled the events beyond the final stage. After receiving an email from Cicada, they were taken to a forum on the dark web. Here they could communicate with 20-some-odd recruits as well as a handful of established members of Cicada. They were told that Cicada 3301 had been founded by a group of friends who shared common ideals about security, privacy, and censorship. The goal was to work as a collective to develop software applications in line with that ideology. As friends recruited friends, this secret society quickly expanded into a decentralized international organization.
It really just sounds like anonymous, but they want to be more anonymous than anonymous, and they also think they're super cool and want to come across as being super cool and super intelligent. That's what it seems to me, at least.
The recruits were then tasked with developing software that fit the ideology of the group, and members of Cicada would oversee their progress. But without the allure of a puzzle to be solved, the recruits quickly lost interest. By the end of 2012, all but one had left, and a few months later, the site was gone.
Wow.
They never heard from Cicada again.
Well, I'm sure, too, like, if you're not part of that founding group and you came all this way, you're going to expect a reward. Like, we don't know if these people were being paid or not, but if they get to the end just to be like, hey, congrats, you're now part of our club. Cool, go make software for us. If they don't share that group's original convictions, they're not going to do that. They're going to be like, that's it? I did all this work for you. I traveled. Like, what's the point? Okay, I'm whatever. Bye. I want to know if they were paid.
One of the 2 winners, named Marcus Wanner, later elaborated further in a video by YouTuber Nox Populi. Furthermore, Nox Populi himself claims to be a winner of the second puzzle, so I reached out to him and this is some of what he had to say. After completing the final stages of the second puzzle, Nox Populi received an invitation to join Cicada 3301. However, he was not invited to a website but was instead merely told to be patient. Then, around May of 2013, all communication with Cicada abruptly ceased. This was around the same time as when the website dedicated to the winners of the first puzzle was suddenly taken down. Nox Populi later contacted other winners of the second puzzle to compare notes, and their experiences were identical. In his own words, all the stories were the same. We were invited to join 3301, then something happened and silence followed a request for patience.
I feel like people are gonna spin this probably as like, oh, well, they got found out by a government, a SWAT team, or something, or they got like a cease and desist. But I truly feel like these are people who are clearly pretty intelligent and able to craft something like this, but maybe not the best at managing other people, you know? Like, especially, again, people they don't know. Like, congratulations, you've collected a bunch of people who have similar skills as you do and have said in their email, although maybe that was just, maybe they don't actually believe this, but they just want to gain access to the group. So they said yes, or they answered all the email questions correctly. And then they get in there and they're like, oh, you don't believe the same things we do. You don't think these things. You just said yes to get in. Because how can you prove belief, you know? They could have just lied and just been like, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, sure. And maybe they just got overwhelmed and were like, all right, and then they were deciding among themselves what to do or didn't know how to organize things, and then they just kind of fell through and nothing happened because they were like, we didn't actually plan for this, or they couldn't agree on what to do with people. I find that sometimes very, very smart or very, very talented people are very, very smart or very, very talented, but maybe they're not the most organized in terms of life things. And yeah, maybe this is a case of that. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just projecting.
Nox Populi supposed that roughly 5 others completed the second puzzle, in contrast to the 20-odd winners of the first. In regards to who or what Cicada is, Nox Populi believes they could be a remnant of the cypherpunk movement of the late 80s and 90s. Essentially a small group of activists advocating widespread use of strong cryptography and privacy-enhancing technologies, but he admits that there is no way to know for certain. If you want a far more comprehensive walkthrough of these puzzles as opposed to my brief overview, Nox Populi has produced a number of videos on his channel which I highly recommend.
Alright.
While these accounts cannot be verified, they do make for a very compelling argument as to what Cicada is. A group of anonymous developers seeking to develop privacy-conscious applications by recruiting talented individuals via cryptographic puzzles. Sure.
But if they wanted to... I'm going off into philosophical land. But if they wanted to produce, like, privacy applications, how would they... If they want to be so private themselves, it's the commercializing factor, right? Like, how would they then disseminate that information without it becoming widespread? Because if they have this grand cause, you can't have a grand cause and also have it be limited and private. You know what I mean? So, like, if they were wanting to make these applications or this software, there's no way to disseminate that and your ideas without being known, or at least found out. Seemed like they had a really cool idea for a scavenger hunt, but not really the application of whatever they were planning to come after.
It is not nearly as exciting as a shadow government seeking world domination or any of the more fantastical theories, but it is certainly more plausible. You have to keep in mind that no part of these puzzles would have required more than one person. The posters are often pointed to as evidence that this must be the work of some international organization, but I beg to differ.
Yeah,
I mean, right
doesn't
now,
seem like it.
I could use any number of services to hire random persons around the globe to install posters for me.
Right.
Although, given
Or maybe even full billboards. That other, well, then you get an influx of people calling in, you don't want that. But yeah, you could just have people do
that no poster was located more than an hour away from an airport leads me to believe that one or multiple persons actually traveled to these locations. I mean, some of
That's such a commitment for seemingly so little return.
the posters were found within walking distance of an international airport. The fact is that anyone with a disposable income and enough time on their hands would
That's
be able
true.
to create the
And forgetting,
illusion
some
of a
people be
vast
rich.
secret network spanning the globe. Not saying that that is the case with Cicada 3301, but it
makes
is
sense,
nonetheless a possibility
Yeah.
that cannot be discounted. With all of that being said, I personally think a loose-knit group of privacy-minded hobby cryptographers to be the most plausible explanation. Cicada made their last public statement in April of 2017, merely warning against disinformation, but the current status of the third puzzle and the possibility of a fourth remains clouded in mystery.
Okay. That is, you know, I hadn't thought about, because I also didn't know exactly what Cicada 3301, as he was saying, entailed. But I felt like if I had known the full story before watching this video, I would have come to the same or a similar conclusion. Like, it just seems like a bunch of, or seemingly very few, very smart people who just wanted to do a thing and gather like-minded people, but then didn't really have many practical applications for whenever they succeeded. And maybe the people in that first group also left in a similar fashion to the people in the second group, and that's why they had to do another round, because they were like, or maybe they didn't get enough people in the first one because I don't know. But also that giant runic book, the first book, which is also that's so uppity. All of this is so uppity. They want to sound so cool. And on first glance, they really do. But I feel like upon further examination, it's like you need more organization in order to pull something like this fully off and have it continue on. And the very same super private nature of this organization requires either intense organization by a very few people in order to have it carry on past the contest, or a shadow government and a lot of power, but also consequences for people, as scary, as awful as that sounds, consequences for people talking and blabbing what this was about, which there seemed to be none. So it really seems like, and it doesn't seem like it was some big government or secret international huge society with like thousands and thousands of members, or even hundreds. So yeah, you can't exert huge influence and be fully private. Even anonymous, like I was saying, like anonymous is not, like people are private, but like people who used to be anonymous, like they have said, yeah, I wasn't anonymous. They haven't revealed their identities, but they've come out and say, yeah, I helped do this, this, and this. And I don't know, but have people from anonymous been arrested? Like they're anonymous, but they're not, but they're decentralized and they're big and they seemingly are very organized, which is why they're able to do what they do. But people know about them. You know, they're anonymous and they do kind of underground hacky work, but they're still people, even though they are anonymous, people know about them. Whereas people supposedly weren't supposed to really know about this group. So even though they're anonymous, people also don't know about them. Therefore, they can't really exert influence without becoming known at some point. So it just seems like it was an idea that maybe didn't shake out in the end. But if you're part of that organization and you're watching this, still cool. Still a cool scavenger hunt. And glad you think that everyone deserves a VPN. I gotta get one. I want to see what Netflix has in Canada. Anyway, folks, I've blabbed on for way too long. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this, and I'll see you next time.